So looking at the positive, and this guy was just positive from the jump. These broadcasters and these ESPN people and these talking heads, they're going to know who Yves Missi is now. These NBA draft people, they're going to know who Yves Missi is now. The guy is a unicorn, man. I mean, truly, it's so fun to have a player like this in a time where centers are as obsolete as ever in the NBA game and are getting that way in the college game. To see a battle like we did tonight of Yves Missi versus Kyle Filipowski, that was fun. That was good. And to be honest with you, Yves Missi had the better game. He did. His team didn't win, and that's what counts. But Yves Missi outperformed Kyle Filipowski tonight, a guy who could have been at the end of the lottery last year and decided to come back. Yves Missi is a guy who finished high school early last year and decided to go to Baylor. He was just excellent tonight. 11 points, 10 rebounds, 5 blocks. That's all I need to say. If you didn't watch the game, that's all I need to say. And for those of you who watched the game, you're like, dang, I thought he had more of all of those things. That's how good he was. And he had Filipowski in a blender, man. He really did. I said on yesterday's show that you need to be physical with Filipowski. And I think, Yves Missi is a physical guy, but he is a freshman. He is 18. And I know Filipowski is only a sophomore, but he is only 18. He should be a high school senior right now. And he brought it all night. All night. Filipowski could not get clean looks off him. It was only when he was dribbling the ball off his own thigh and Missi goes in the air for what would have been a shot block to the other free throw line. And then he gets an open look. That's the only free looks that he got against Yves Missi last night. And you could definitely see the impact he had when he went out of the game, specifically in the second half when he was grabbing at his neck, because then Josh Ojemudia is covering him and Jalen Bridges is covering him. And Filipowski just took them both to the woodshed and kind of, doesn't pour in a ton of points, but really flexes Duke's muscle at that point in the game. That was not the sole turnaround point, but Duke had the game in hand after that, which was about 8.5 minutes left in the game. And it was indicative of the fact that Yves Missi was the only guy on this team that could cover him. And I wonder how far that extends into the Big 12 schedule, because I was Josh O believer. I thought he was going to be the starting center coming into the year. And I just liked the potential he showed last year, and is beefed up a little bit more. He was too raw last year, and now I think he might be a little too passive this year. So hopefully that his confidence goes up. But if you go into these games against Hunter Dickinson and Kansas, who you'll have to play twice, and Yves Missi, the star that he is the only guy that can cover him, only guy that can body him up, that's going to be a tough night. It's going to be a real tough night because Hunter Dickinson does not struggle with physicality the way that Filipowski does. So that is going to need to change. I mean, defense in general is going to need to change for Baylor. I mean, from inside and out. But again, we see teams trying to isolate on Yves Missi, and it doesn't work. It only works for Baylor. And the kid's just a star. He really is. And, seeing him early on, I thought, okay, he can jump through the gym. He's got incredible athleticism. But he, like Josh O and Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua before him, very similar style of player, and guys who hadn't had a ton of experience playing basketball, I thought, okay, he's going to be raw. He's going to be really raw. By year 2, he'll show that kind of 4-star, 5-star potential. I was wrong, which happens often. I was wrong, man. He was ready for the college game. That's what impressed me so much, was he was physically ready for the college game. Teams try to post up on him one-on-one, which you heard Jay Billis talk about. It's the toughest thing to guard in basketball. He is excellent at it. Excellent. His footwork is great. His body control is great, even for someone who probably flails out a little too much to block the shots. But his body control is really good, and he's still blocking 5 shots. boy, and that stretch he goes on in the first half where, I mean, it just looked like Baylor was dead as a doornail. I know it was early in the game, but you're like, boy, this looks a lot like that Michigan State game. They just haven't, Duke hasn't pulled away yet. And they didn't. Yves Missi brought them back in the game and put them ahead at both ends of the floor. Shot blocking machine, offensive rebounds, putbacks, dunks. He was all over it last night. And the more I see from this team, the more I think he is the best basketball player they've got. And that's a tight competition. Jalen Bridges is still good. Jacoby Walter's very good. Ray J. Dennis, I think, could be a very good player. Although, again, he just, another night where he's just throwing the ball around, 6 turnovers. Again, and trying to play hero ball in the second half. But in terms of the efficiency and both ends of the floor, Yves Missi is your best basketball player. He truly is, man. And he's been that way every game. And Jacoby Walter has been right up there pretty much every game too. Again, this was kind of his first night that I thought, boy, does he look like a freshman. It looked a little too big for him, and he just looked, I don't know if it was sick or battling an injury or something, but he was getting beat all night. But yeah, another turnover problem from Ray J. Dennis. Another game that I was really hoping Jaden Nunn would step up, and he didn't. He ends up going 0 of 5 from the floor, 0 of 2 from 3. Like I need him to be a secondary guy. I need him to be kind of what Davion Mitchell was in 2020. Okay, because I think he can be that good a defender. But that's what Davion was in that first year at Baylor. He was the starting point guard, of course, but he was a defender. He was off night. That's all he was. He wasn't shooting the ball. He hadn't perfected that yet. He makes that great leap in the next season that makes him a top 10 pick, but he wasn't that yet. And I just need Jaden Nunn to be that 2019, 2020 Davion Mitchell this year for Baylor to really be serious. And he just hasn't been that yet. But I think he can be a dog in the defensive end. I really can. Shout out to the Lady Bears, by the way. Another win, 10-0, ho-hum. Didn't get to watch it because it was on Flow Hoops. And we did that. We played that game 2 years ago. We thought we were bigger than that. I guess not. That's ridiculous, man. Top 10 team playing on Flow Hoops. Can't even put it on Big 12 now. Come on. Give me a break. But they forced 27 turnovers against the Providence College Friars. It's all coming together for the ladies. I know Providence is nothing to write home about, but we have seen great ball movement, great looks on the offensive end, and now it's coming on the defensive end too. If this team had one more 6'6", 6'7" hulking center, this would be a Kim Mulkey team. The way they're defending at a high level, the way they're moving the ball. But the difference is versus a Kim Mulkey team, which he did have some at the end there, they can go inside out. They can go inside out. Shout out to Sarah Andrews, who was Big 12 Player of the Week last week, and she's been money this season. Lady Bears will play at the Foz. I think it's the day after the men do, January 3rd, I believe is their first game there. But shout out to the women. Number 10 in the nation coming up. Signing day was yesterday. Kind of gets lost in the fold with the big basketball game. And there was nothing really to write home about. Or maybe there was something to write home about, but something to not talk about. That's coming up.